Look, if you had one shot to play all the GAC you ever wanted till you made it to Kyber 1, would you go for it? Or would you just get a bunch of 10s? Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xerath Prevails. Today we're going to talk about the best 3v3 offense teams out there for the upcoming 3v3 season that everyone in the whole world is looking forward to, I'm sure. And we're also going to be talking about the best defensive teams in a separate video that's released at the exact same time as this. The link will be found either at the end of this video or in the video description, so go check those out. Come and watch me live on these folks too. There's a link to my Twitch channel in the video description. It's free to watch, guys, and it's a lot more fun to play it live. There's a lot of questions we have to answer that these videos are gonna answer a lot of things. I think playing it live is probably gonna reveal a little bit more truth though. So before we jump into anything further, I want to say thanks to my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all of the support. I truly couldn't do what I do without you guys. Thank you so much for everything, guys. And if you want to support the channel for free, all you gotta do is hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, comment, mount the algorithm, guys. The water is warm or something. Actually, I don't know that there's water involved with mounting the algorithm, if I'm being honest, but I just thought maybe it would be nice for you to know that the water's warm. They're not really linked, though. Sorry to say. Let's let's jump in to the whoa. We're in the game madness. How did we get in the game? This is something. It's crazy. All right, guys. So I'm showing you guys my middle account. I have 3 different accounts. The 2 bigger ones are in Kyber 1, and then the littlest one is somehow in Kyber 3, and it's at 7 million. It's not gonna last. It's just crazy. Honestly, I won't stay in Kyber 3, but I think I've done pretty well in GAC in general, and I hope that you guys will take at least some of these suggestions. This is a really challenging season to talk about, in fact, guys, because the Datacron sets are just, they're all over the place, and they're kind of confusing, honestly. So real quick, I want to show you the Datacron set, this unwavering courage. I hope that I have that. There's some really crazy strong Datacrons here, and I know that some people don't like Datacrons. You don't have to engage. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to kind of just ignore Datacrons, frankly, because it's very difficult to predict how these different mechanics are going to impact things. So I'm not even going to get into the faction and character stuff right now. Guys, we'll get to them as we talk about the various teams, but what I do want to point out is that for light side and dark side, there's one ability, one mechanic it's rare, it's tough to roll actually. A lot of people are doing a lot of rerolls and they're exaggerating like crazy. Man, someone was telling me they did 40 rerolls, and I have a way I can check, and I was like, you did not do 40, but people like to exaggerate. They've done a ton of rerolls. They can't roll protection up on light side, or even more important, the doubt on dark side, and doubt is going to change things significantly. The protection up is also really strong, but the doubt it stops turn meter, which is a crazy mechanic. People don't realize just how much they rely on turn meter mechanics until it just screeches to a halt. And doubt also prevents you from gaining buffs, and it's a locked debuff that you just have for 2 turns, and maybe it won't be as crazy in 3s. In 5s, it's going to shut down entire teams. Like Imperial Troopers are just not going to be able to take down dark side teams easily because of the doubt mechanic. But there's also the added twist of, will people be able to roll these? I don't know. I don't know how pervasive it's going to be, and I'm guessing the majority of the people watching are not going to see these a whole lot. You need to be paying attention for them, but we're going to kind of pretend like you're playing a match where you don't have to deal with a ton of these. I'll probably end up with opponents with 10, 20, 30 of these. Like genuinely, I bet that I'll have some opponents that have over 20 of either the doubt or the protection upcrons. We'll see how we can handle it. It's going to be quite the ride, folks. So with that being said, let's start talking about the best teams on offense. And Leia, now that her Kron is out of here, needs to stay on offense almost full time. 3v3, there may be a small place for her on defense. I don't know if we found it yet, honestly. She'll have her own Datacron, actually. It's kind of a lower priority, but she does have a Rebel fighter on her team, which is Captain Drogan, and so she's going to be able to use some of the mechanics. She's going to be really good on offense, though. I mean, she is amazing. CG was accurate in their assessment in saying, hey, she's going to be good on offense. She won't be good on defense. And then people were like, oh, but she's good on defense. But they didn't take into account that it was a crazy Datacron that they gave the team. And so Leia is going to be on offense. I think she's going to be there full time almost, guys. And it's going to change the meta a little bit in the sense that you'll always be able to delete one team with her without much trouble. I think she doesn't have many teams she's going to have struggles with. Now, Supreme Leader Kylo's in a weird place because last few seasons, at least for the top of the meta, there's been a thing where Kylo just has to be reserved to kill Leia. And then you had to keep Malicos for Supreme Leader Kylo. You didn't have to, but it upped your win percentage by quite a bit. And now Kylo's kind of being released back into the wild, and it's like, what do we do with him now? I'm so used to not having him available for anything other than hunting Leia, because that was probably 8 out of 9 of my matches, the last 2 3v3s. I don't know what I'm going to do with him, frankly. Probably go back to, well, he used to hunt Lord Vader all the time, and now Lord Vader can't show his face on defense. Maybe in 3s a little bit, but especially with Bo-Katan and her madness that's going on. Like she just deletes that team. She can solo that team, I think. And so, at least at the top of Kyber, you're not going to see a lot of Lord Vaders. And so, with that being said, Kylo's in kind of a weird place right now. You could almost just put him on defense with a Doubt Kron and then put some Night Sisters there. That's probably an option, to be honest, guys. Or you can keep him on offense and just kill. I mean, he'll take out Jabba, and I think Jabba's going to be on defense a little bit in 3s, and definitely not in 5s, but in 3s I think Jabba will. I think Kylo could be a good stopgap for that, and honestly, if Leia is placed on defense, we're going to need something to take her out. She's not going to be nearly as challenging as she was when she had the Rebel Kron with the damage reduction and all of that madness, but she's still a galactic legend, right? Like she's worthy of at least some respect, and I think Kylo could do a good job of taking her out. I think Inquisition. So for a little bit, we've been putting Inquisitors with Lord Vader, and I guess in some ways I'm doing a disservice to people in assuming that Lord Vader's gonna just be on offense moving forward, but at the same time, I just don't think he can be on defense, folks. And so we used to be sometimes at least, putting Inquisition with him on defense, and Bo-Katan just halts that. She stops it. She's like, hey, guys, stop doing that, please. And then she stops people from doing that. But she asks nicely, man. It's reasonable. We just need to acquiesce to her demands, I think. So I think Inquisition, that we're going to see some Kenobi teams out there on defense, and I think that's going to be a trap, because in 5s it's fairly easy to kill a Kenobi team with Cat and be able to ability block her and keep Cat in fear and do all that stuff, and not have her insta-kill Third Sister. It's going to be a lot more challenging in 3s to be able to do that. So what do Inquisition take out? I mean, they're going to have a pretty decent offense. Kron, they're going to be able to hit pretty hard. I'm pretty interested to see. I mean, I think that we're going to be facing like a lot of dark Trooper Moff Gideon teams, and the Inquisition might be able to keep them in check a little bit. We'll have to see. It's a little bit pending of like what exactly are they going to do. Like, probably could kill at least Leia's ads. Probably kill the whole team, to be honest, at this point. Probably just take down more of what they usually do. I just don't think that they belong on defense right now, is my guess. Though, we might see more of them just because they have an Empire Cron that lets them hit really hard. They might be kind of hard to shift, like Treya with Savage might not be an option against this team. Well, we'll just have to see. It's tough to predict when a ton of teams are just going to turn all their defense into straight offense. It's good, and then Doubt enters in the mix. It's the Wild West, folks. It's going to be crazy. So Adrad, I think we want him on offense, folks. And the thing you have to remember is, on offense, you could put Cassian there. If you're putting him on defense, you don't want Cassian there because you want a tank. You want someone who can shut down your opponent's access to Radis. Because if they can kill Radis, then it's over. Game over. You lose. And if you have a tank to stop them, then hey, you've stopped them, and hopefully you don't lose. Maybe you still do. So I obviously don't have K2SO worked on this account. I think he would be the best option here on defense. We're talking about offense, though. If you want ability, or if you want, I think he does ability block. He does a bunch of different debuffs. Cassian is a wonderful option there because the AI, for some reason, loves to hit Jhin and she can't die. Otherwise, Scarif Rebel Pathfinder is pretty nice because he does an AoE just like Radis and Jhin, and that AoE is super nice because, of course, it pops all of those exposes that are hidden behind your opponent's tanks. So, you know, they hit you, they crit you, they put exposes on themselves because of Admiral Radis's, you know, mechanics to add the exposes, and then you can't get to them because your opponent has a tank on the team, which is great, until you have an AoE, which lets you reach them. So there's also a Jhin Urso Cron, in fact, because she's a rebel fighter. She's going to ramp her damage a lot, so I would recommend, I mean, mine's only Relic 5 on this account, and you can see I'm still working on it, but I would recommend throwing some offense on her, trying to get her ramped up, because once you do roll her Datacron, she's going to be hitting pretty hard, and the fights that you have with Radis are usually pretty prolonged. I'm curious to see, though, how this is going to go, because Radis is usually the best against Empire squads, at least Empire squads that you can actually survive the damage from, and I don't know how much in threes we're going to survive. I'm just not sure. Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, we used to destroy him with Adrad. I kind of don't think that's going to be on the table. I think he's just going to one-shot your team and laugh at your corpses. So, as dark as that is, I mean, he does put the dark in Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. Oh, that wasn't good. Okay, so we have Afra here. She's not as good in threes, guys. She has a wonderful Datacron that last season for it in threes. And it's good. It will take out a lot of teams. Just remember, she's amazing in fives because she has so many droids constantly feeding her turns, constantly giving her extra turns to do stuff. She only has 2 droids in this case, and whereas they're pretty good, they're not an endless supply of droids like she has in fives. Not to mention her her Omicron doesn't work in threes. Don't go and try to compensate for that by applying Omicrons on the murder bots. They're not good, Omicrons, not typically, but she's good with their Datacron. She's not going to kill Jabba with impunity. She's not going to, she's going to have to tiptoe around. I wouldn't be surprised if people just get frustrated and throw her on defense at some point, because there's not a lot that she's going to specifically be slated to kill. Not to mention, I mean, she's gaining bonus turns, so maybe she can cycle through that Doubt, but Doubt is going to really mess with her if she's facing a lot of strong Empire, you know, dark side teams. Now, I'm taking Malgus. Last season, I think on my main account, I kept Malgus for offense. This is one of my attempts to kind of, you know, adapt to all of that Doubt spam that we may be facing, because Malgus doesn't really care that much about, I mean, the Marauder, Sith Marauder does want turn meter, and Sith Assassin, I guess, does as well, but Malgus himself is like, hey, you don't have to buff me, you don't have to, like, I'm just going to do crazy damage, and, you know, he's going to do that. I think On offense, he's going to be able to take down a lot of kind of like B-level teams just on his own, or even like B+, something like Zori teams I was doing a lot last season, because he can just one-shot people. And so even if they have that protection up cron, he's just going to one-shot them and ignore that. They can't get protection up if they're dead, right? Or maybe they do, and it's just like laying there on them, like, oh, that's useful, thank you. I'm keeping it for offense. You'll see the teams that we forge on defense based off of him not being around for defense, but I think this is fair because otherwise he'll just be another team with doubt, and it's not even going to be locked doubt. We'll have to see. I think he's going to be good on offense though, guys. He doesn't have a Datacron that gives him a lot of health, which feeds his offense, so we're also going to have to navigate that. General Skywalker has his good clones back, folks, and, you know, last season I was looking at my GAC history, and a few people failed against this team on my main account. On my alt, every single person who fought it just used Qui-Gon for really good scores, and so, I should say this, not this team, the team with Rex, Fives, and Captain Rex. So we're doing something different. General Skywalker is going on offense. He could actually be a good defensive team. Maybe I'll put that in the defensive squads as well, because if you put a lot of protection up on them, they could actually be fairly obnoxious to take out. But I do think that on offense, he's going to be able to accomplish quite a bit, just because if they have a lot of protection up, they're not going to die that easily. He's going to keep standing up and ramping his offense. He's going to be able to do some pretty good stuff. And yes, you're going to miss that turn meter from the clones, but if you're facing someone with a lot of doubt on them, if they have the level 3 doubt, but I think this team is going to be able to ramp pretty well and probably kill, I don't know, Malgus level teams probably. I just love how much they ramp their damage over time, and then Rex, once you get the Rexecute, you start being able to do some crazy damage to a lot of different teams. The Qui-Gon team, a lot of it, unless you want to put crazy fast speeds on them, even if you do want to put crazy fast speeds on them, a lot of times this team has been solved, at least at the top level. At the lower levels, I used to say that this was my win printing team, and I mean, it still does on lower levels, because people don't know how to deal with a really fast team, but you have to make them faster than your opponent's Bad Batch Echo. Bad Batch Echo can be pretty fast. Just remember, Ki-Adi-Mundi is plus 80 speed. So, I mean, if you're putting him on defense, this is an offense video, but, I mean, my Ki-Adi-Mundi plus 80 speed is actually really cooking. He's really fast, 373. I mean, that's pretty good on defense as well. You can do either or, I guess, if you want at least 2 of them to be faster than your opponent's Bad Batch Echo, which can be tough. This Anakin is only 358 speed, because he's only plus 60 speed. I don't really think that Kelleran Beck is going to go anywhere good on this team, though we'll have to see. If he goes anywhere on defense for this team, I would take out Anakin and put Kelleran Beck there, just for what it's worth. On offense, this is going to kill a lot of those mid-range teams as well, like Zori, be able to take out the Captain Rexes that I was just complaining about, be able to take out some Tuskens here and there. Though Tuskens, if they have the right defensive comp, you don't want to mess with Tuskens with this team, because you don't have some way to ignore their revive. Now, Malicos, this is... I've put this team on offense and defense, guys. This is going to be a really strange situation, because now we have Malicos available. And because on this account I have Maul available, we could probably take down a few different teams. Remember, every time Maul does a special, which he builds those stacks of Anguish so he can do 6 specials in a row, then Malicos follows him and hits as well. It's a really nice mechanic, and in 3s, you just don't have as much support for it. Like, you don't... Seer does okay with them, but you don't have Baby Cal to help. And, you know, if you want to put Maul with Malicos, that means you have to have someone who can lead on the team, and usually you want Seer. So, it's just kind of a weird situation, honestly, guys. I think this team is probably going on defense at least some of the time for me this season, because it can be very challenging to beat, even without the cool unaligned force user datacrons that we used to have that just dusted. I do think this team, Malicos just hits like a truck, guys. He's awesome. He's a space truck driver. No, he's not, but he hits like crazy, and he actually is legitimately crazy. So yeah, recommend this on defense. If you're doing it on defense, Crew is going to be good there. If it's on offense, probably Maul instead. Or Maul can go in other places, as we'll talk about later, but Maul isn't necessarily as needed with Lord Vader as you might think. So, okay, here's... with Jedi Master Luke, I don't think he should be on defense, guys. I don't trust him on defense, frankly. On offense, people killed my Lord Vader teams a lot last season with this specific Jedi Master Luke comp, just with a better Barriss. I'm showing you this so that you can know. On offense, this team can take down a lot of stuff for a fairly reasonable price. I mean, if you have Barriss with her Zeta, if she's relicked, you know, pretty good. The one thing to keep in mind, of course, is that you don't have a protection cron, so you're not going to be able to do as crazy big hits with the team, but I do think on offense is still probably the option, or probably the best choice. Maybe throw a cron on there with a bunch of extra potency or something, so that you're able to get all your debuffs off, and that way it saves all the other Jedi for other things. This team will take down like a General Skywalker squad, maybe some Lord Vader squads. So I think Lord Vader is going to be kind of out of his mind for at least part of this season because of the Empire crons. Though we're not going to see Lord Vader a lot of times because Bo-Katan is so ridiculous. In 3s especially, or in 5s especially, that Lord Vader's not going to be good. And actually, honestly, guys, we'll see it in a little bit, but I think there's a couple teams, even in 3s, that are just going to destroy Lord Vader. We'll talk about it in a minute. So, the Gidme team, I think, is stronger than ever because there is a bug going on here, folks. So if you can roll a Datacron that lets you, let's see. Let's just look here. So it's a faction one. It is a bug, so they might fix it, but it's this top one. Whenever an enemy loses turn meter, which Moff Gideon facilitates that with a Padme team, it says Empire allies gain protection up stacking for 2 turns. This is actually, this is where the bug is. It's not just Empire allies. It's just allies gain protection up. So the Padme team loves protection up. They get all their damage based off of getting protection up buffs, and so as of right now they're going to be getting crazy numbers of offense, you know, of their courage statistic, the mechanic to be able to pummel your opponents to death. And the second part, whenever an ally loses protection up, they gain 10% turn meter. I mean, that's not going to work with Gidme anyways, but this is only whenever an ally loses protection up. Hilariously, like, this is, I think they swapped it around, I think, because this is only Empire gains the turn meter, is how I was told at least. So keep that in mind, I guess, because it could be key, folks. That team has taken out a lot of stuff traditionally. I don't know how long of a shelf life it has, honestly, because of Imperial Remnant starting to take dominance. But I think Moff Gideon is fine. Like, he doesn't need to go with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. So I think this team is going to be pretty strong, be able to take out a lot of those teams with Savage, especially if Savage is just hanging out with, you know, Traya, and he has a ton of protection up, he has a ton of layers of defense, and you're just not going to care about it because of how much courage you're generating. Now, troopers are in a weird spot because a lot of their targets, they have to make a kill every once in a while to keep their turn meter train going, and yes, they're Empire, so they're going to be able to hit pretty hard, but you know, they can keep their turn meter train going to a certain degree, but if doubt is introduced to the team, they stop gaining turn meter. And if your opponent has a ton of stacks of protection up, you might not get a kill for a while based on how many hit points you have. So I think troopers they'll be able to take out stuff that don't have the new Datacron level 3s. they'll be able to take out the stuff they've been able to take out. And like CLS teams are pretty easily on the table now because they're not going to have that really crazy cron that gives them the damage reduction unless they have the level 3 protection up. So we'll just have to see how many people are rolling it and how many people aren't. I kind of think this team is going to be I used it a couple times this season without actually using it pervasively. Now, Bam is one of the really strong, Beskar Mando, he's got a really strong datacron this season, and the way it works is for every stack of Whistling Birds that he gets, all the rest of them get a ton of extra damage. So if he does 1 Whistling Bird, it's going to do the same as it always has. If he gets 2, you won't really notice it that much. If he gets 20, it will destroy the entire kingdom. It will destroy everyone. And so the question is, in 3s, how do you get him 20 stacks? Like 16 stacks is nice. 20 stacks is significantly so much stronger than 16. Usually you're like, oh, 16, that's pretty good. I'll take that. If you can get 20, that's wonderful. And so the idea is to get a cron that gives you extra damage based off of effects that you try to apply. It's the Amplify Agony one. And so if you can do that, then Chewbacca already, if he does his AoE, so if you go immediately into poop stance with Beskar Mando, then Chewbacca can do his AoE that's going to do 6 instances of damage immediately because he does % health damage on top of his normal damage. And then with this, he's also, I mean, he's just giving his friends buffs. So it's not actually doing an effect, in which case it doesn't actually, it won't apply another set of damage or whatever. But if you on top of that have Han shooting and assisting, and Chewie assisting, then you're going to start, Han does have effects on his basic and on his stun, and so you're able to kind of build up those stacks pretty well. I don't know if you can get all the way up to 20 with Beskar Mando, but they're probably one of the best tandems out there to do it. Similarly, if you build out Dash in the same way, you could probably do that with Beskar Mando. The tricky part is if you want to use it with Dash, first off, Dash has a fantastic set 12 datacron that he probably doesn't really love the idea of losing. Honestly, he wants to use that, but if you do want to take the latest Beskar Mando, like the best way to do it, you're gonna have to use a different ability than the AoE with Dash initially. So then Beskar Mando can go and do poop stance, and then Dash can circle around and do his AoE. Of course, it's tricky because what if your opponent stuns Dash or, you know, messes with your turn meter, etc. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, but one AoE with Dash with the right datacron on the level 3 is going to give him what, like 14 or 16 stacks just on his own, and then Vander Chewie can do it a couple more and, you know, get him a lot of stacks. Another way you can kind of try to engineer it, but it's tricky because then you're slow, is you can get Dash slower than Beskar Mando. I'm personally not going to do that, I don't think, at least not in the first week. We'll see if we need to do it, but one way or another, Beskar Mando can take down Galactic Legends on his own if he's supported properly, and so trying to find the right team for him is going to be pretty important, and it's going to be especially powerful in 5v5. 3s, it's going to be, hopefully we can engineer something, figure something out. So then that leaves us with like an Old Ben and Hondo hanging out. Remember, Hondo already gains a lot of turn meter, he has a lot of evade mechanics and stuff. With Old Ben, his leadership is going to give him even more turn meter and more evasion mechanics, and so it's kind of nice. Old Ben does die eventually, but then by then Hondo has ramped up his damage and he kills things. It's just not for great banners. A lot of times you'll do a pre-taunt in the 3rd slot just to be able to help you take it out. I mean, you'll be able to take out like Malgus squad, weak Malgus squads, not the ones with Darth Revan on them and stuff, but like Malgus, sometimes you can one-shot Savage. It just depends on the situation and what you're trying to kill, but Hondo's pretty nice, especially if you want to use the no revive cron for scoundrels. He is a scoundrel, and if you're facing a team like, I don't know, like Mon Mothma or something, you can kill a character and they won't be able to revive. Similarly, like you could take out like Night Sisters or something like that. He's cool like that. Now, Trench is one that I'm like, man, maybe we put him on defense, maybe not. I think the only reason you put him on defense is if you have Watt there. If you're just on offense, I like the idea of keeping it for offense because then you can actually just put Django here instead of Newt, or and you can take out like some Tuscan teams, so like all the Nice Sisters teams, any team that has some kind of revive mechanic on it. This is also a really good cleanup team. It just depends on what you want. It's kind of Build-A-Bear in the sense that you can figure out which components you want. In threes, it's a little less like that because you just have, you want Watt on the team usually. In which case you have to have Trench for it to be a Trench team, and then you have Watt, and then you have, Django or Newt or Dooku. But then you could potentially just throw Dooku on the team, and then have a GL Newt team to be able to take out other squads. So, GL Newt being like Newt lead with Django and B1. It's an age-old team. Hopefully we get like some kind of cool separatist characters this month. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Okay, so Starkiller, probably still on offense. Remember, we're going to have some Empire Datacrons. Neither of the Emperor Palpatine or Mara Jade are really that great of damage dealers on their squads. So, I don't know how helpful those Empire Crons are going to be, necessarily, but I think they're a factor, and you're going to get more turn meter depending on which Datacron you're using. Starkiller, it's kind of nice in some ways. The Ufu Crons are gone, but he's able to start killing Rey again. Of course, if we start getting doubt spam, then it stops working as well, because then you don't have, if you have doubt on Palpy and Mara, you're not gaining all that bonus turn meter, and it turns into an entire mess. So let's see, next we have Jedi Luke, and of course we could mix and match this team with Jedi Master Luke to make a stronger or worse team on both ends, but this is the team that you use to kill any of the Malgus teams out there. I'm guessing it's going to be pretty helpful against, a lot of different teams, and doubt is going to derail it a little bit, but probably not too crazy much. I think this team has a lot of flexibility, and honestly, probably in my case, the biggest question mark is how long can my Relic 5 Mace survive? I need to put more relics on him, but I need to put more relics on everyone. Now, the Biggs Kron gives you a really nice turn meter loop. He gains a lot of turn meter every time someone else assists, and every time he shoots, everyone assists. And so, if you have Mon Mothma summon Worthless Guy, then you have 4 people shooting, and Biggs is going to be able to gain, what, like 75% turn meter every time, and every time he shoots. So, not a perfect turn meter loop, but pretty good. This is probably going to be good at cleanups. I wouldn't say it's going to be a super, like, one of the more primary teams to be able to take things out. Kyle Katarn also, he could go with Saw. He could go with a lot of different teams. So we'll see how all that ends up. But I think the Mon Mothma team will end up being at least good at cleanups. I mean, it's a little bit demoralizing, but speaking of cleanups, we also have if you want a good Lord Vader cleanup, you can use Fennec lead, with Grief, and then Embo is a wonderful third person. I don't know, all the dynamics are different, guys. Will we be able to clean up a Lord Vader with the 400% defense turned into offense? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if we can clean them up with bounty hunters. Seems like we could, but also Lord Vader might just WTF pwn them before they can move. So we'll have to play it by ear. Now, the Jedi Revan team, it's kind of an this is like the generic team. You could throw Grandmaster Yoda on it. That's also a little bit generic. This team, honestly, this is why I don't love Zori on defense anymore, because Jedi Revan with just a couple random Jedi usually just beat the pants off of that Zori team, and whereas beating the pants off of someone sounds kind of cool in theory, it's a little bit awkward as well. So, this team still beats a lot. Jedi Revan, I kind of like just keeping a lot of Jedi on offense just to be able to mix and match my Jedi. So we could throw 1 or 2 of these with, the Jedi Luke team, mix them up with that Jedi Master Luke team that's, up here, and You know, Barris gets the boot because she's only gear 12 and doesn't have a Zeta, etc. Wampa is gonna be good. Just bear in mind, Wampa is also susceptible to getting doubt, and Wampa needs so much. Wampa really needs to be able to gain turn meter. So if you're facing a team with a lot of doubt, Wampa might struggle a little bit. We'll have to see how that goes. I think Wampa still has legs against certain teams, but doubt is going to mess with Wampa a little bit. Let's see, Treya. So without Savage, and you'll see where Savage is later. Without Savage, Treya goes. She still does pretty well, and I don't think she's going to be a counter to Inquisition anyway, so we'll probably just give up on that. Have Treya kill, I don't know, like she still takes out Tuskens. Yeah, Tuskens. She still takes out a lot of different teams. You just gotta kind of just keep her survivable, keep her alive if possible. I know that you don't want to because you hate her for some reason. No, I don't know that, but I'd say that Fire Trooper does a pretty credible job of tanking for her, and she keeps things flexible on offense so that you can put a good defense down. So, you know, Treya with Nihilus, Sith Empire Trooper, if he needs to go somewhere, you can throw Scion in there. I know it's anathema to think about Scion being used for anything, but there it is, folks. We also have this Bosk Boba Fett team with Mando and Boba. Of course, if you're not using bounty hunters to clean up Lord Vader up above, you could do a lot of mixes of, you know, Bosk with Fennec and Mando. You could do Bosk with Grief and Mando. That's probably my favorite trio, to be honest. So lots of different things you could do. You could also, depending on what team you're facing, you could also use Scion of Jango here instead of Boba, just so you can get more hits on characters outside of the taunt, and you can do multiple hits, you know, so lots of different options here. But the Bosk team has long been a strong team on offense. You put it on defense, people are going to find a way to beat it. Remember, there's a Scoundrel Cron out there in set 12 that's going to help Mando get back-to-back disintegrates if you know what you're doing. So kind of a cool squad to be able to be working on. Yeah, okay, so the Akbar team, one thing I saw recently was instead of Stormtrooper Han, just putting Raid Han in there. I don't think I'm ready for that quite yet, but I do like, then this team is for offense. I mean, it's going to kill a lot of AdRad teams. It relies so much on turn meter. If you're facing a team with a ton of doubt, I don't think this team works anymore. I doubt it works. Let's just make a lot of different fun jokes about doubt and Mrs. Doubtfire. I also want to try Fulcrum Ahsoka because one of her specials is just gaining buffs, and there's a ton of buffs to be had. Of course, I don't recommend people get the Omicrons for Akbar or Leia, but if you do, you're generating a ton of buffs. Fulcrum can generate, she generates a few of her own, and she can call them to assist with one of her moves, and then when she does her attack, she'll be able to blend her up. I'm curious to see how she does, as opposed to Stormtrooper Han. Now, I guess the final team for offense is going to be Nice Sisters. Hopefully Nice Sisters just totally destroy everything in their sights. Probably not. In this case, I probably want Daka on the team just because all my other Nice Sisters are gear 12 or worse, and I don't want my team to be one-shot. Gosh, this video was a really long video, guys. I'm sorry about that. The defensive squad video will hopefully be way shorter. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Zareth prevails.